Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, and welcome to the 2021 SGA Executive Debate, hosted by The Tower, Catholic University's independent student newspaper. My name is Jessica Fetro, and I am the editor-in-chief of The Tower. I am joined today by Noelia Veras, the managing editor of The Tower, and the 2021 SGA secretarial candidates, Philip Ahearn and Grace Birth. Tonight, we will be asking the candidates a series of questions so that the student body will be able to understand a little bit more about each candidate and their initiatives.
Okay, so each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond to the questions asked. We ask that the candidates please respect one another and do not interrupt while another candidate is speaking. I will signal when each candidate has 30 seconds left to answer the question and when the candidate has 15 seconds left. And with that, we move on to tonight's questions.
All right. First section is going to be if each of you could take 15 to 20 seconds to introduce yourself and your involvement on campus. We'll start with Grace.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Birth, and I am a sophomore social work major from Baltimore, Maryland. I spent 1.5 years on the e-board of the International Affairs Association in the capacity of treasurer. And this year, I've had the pleasure of serving for the National Catholic School of Social Service as their senator. And in that, you may have seen that I have put through many resolutions as a co-sponsor, but also I had my own resolution asking the school to recognize American Sign Language as a language this year. And all of the capacities that I've worked on resolutions in Senate are a testament to my passion to push the school in a more diverse and inclusive path for many years to come. And that is a commonality that I see on the ticket for We See You. And so I'm so proud of my work in the Senate thus far.
All right, thank you, Grace. And then Philip, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, guys. Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Ahearn. I'm a junior politics major with double minors in philosophy and Hispanic studies. I come to Catholic University from the Bronx in New York City. Regarding my involvement on campus, I am currently one of the 2 senators for the class of 2022 in the SGA Senate. I'm a member of CU Discuss, College Republicans, College Democrats, and I've been involved with the orientation program as an orientation advisor and last year as student coordinator.
All right, thank you very much. This next question is for both of you, and we'll start with Philip. What inspired you to run for this position?
So regarding what inspired me to run for the position of secretary, I think we all recognize that as our university prepares for a full in-person return, that SGA is going to have a unique role in truly advocating for students, representing students, and making sure that students know that SGA is an organization run by students for students. And I think that the secretary plays a unique role in that, in facilitating communication, effective communication that is, on the ongoings of the body, on the ongoings of the different branches, so that, again, we can most effectively represent the student body. I think I'm inspired to run because I want to see better communication from the SGA with regard to the individual branches and the executive, of course. So that's basically what inspired me to run for this position for next year.
Awesome, thank you. Grace, would you like to go ahead and answer the same question?
Of course. So firstly, and unfortunately, at times we see that there is a mentality either in or about SGA that it is somewhat exclusive, or that, these people have been voted in, and so from there on, students must be hands-off in how they deal with SGA and how they respond to SGA affairs. And throughout this year, I have seen a few times, we've seen greater and greater throughout the school year, that students have been working with senators on legislation, and we've seen that in multiple resolutions, and issues like that have really inspired me to push for a change for greater student participation, which is something that the role of secretary can do very uniquely, because one of their biggest goals is to facilitate outreach. But I do believe that there needs to be more going on than simply informing the student body about what's happening, but really trying to encourage and foster greater student participation. So that is what has encouraged me and inspired me to run for this role, because I know that that is something that I'm being trained to do in social work, is to get people mobilized and to get them talking and to really get them to advocate for their passions. And overall, I've had a lot of inspirations to run for this role, but really just seeing the passions of the student body is one of them.
Philip, this question is directed to you. What have you accomplished at CUA that sets you apart or qualifies you for this role?
Awesome, thank you for the question. So I think that one thing that sets me apart as a candidate for secretary is my extensive experience as a student leader here at Catholic University. After serving as an orientation advisor in 2019, I had the privilege to be one of the student coordinators this past year, which needless to say was an interesting prospect and experience. We had originally planned for an in-person orientation, then COVID hit, then we had to plan for a hybrid program, then COVID spiked again, and ultimately we had to plan a fully virtual program over Zoom. And in this role, I was responsible for communication between first-year students, their families, and the university. And I was also responsible for managing orientations outreach on social media and other mediums. So I think that this unique experience has really equipped me with the knowledge and skills necessary to facilitate accessibility and communication between SGA and the student body.
Thank you very much. Grace, how do you intend to use your position to make the operations of SGA more efficient?
That is a great question. And so, like I said before, I understand that the role of the secretary is to facilitate outreach, but something that I very much intend to do as secretary, once again, is getting students more involved and honestly, just being so greatly accessible. Because I think it's a little bit daunting when you have 4 students as the executive that are supposed to represent the whole of a student body. And as the secretary, I want to send the message that the executive, like everyone else, is just a student trying to thrive their best in a very stressful 4 years of life. And so, as the secretary, I'm going to be there and opening all lines of communication and making sure that I am there for students to come to me with their concerns rather than it just going in one direction with me talking to them. Because the reality of it is that SGA is not operating as smooth as it could if we are not addressing the issues that matter most to students, because we would just be wasting their time. So really just advocating for students on their behalf and making sure that I am their biggest advocate.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. This question is directed at both of you, and we'll start with Grace first this time. How do you plan on making a difference in your role as secretary?
So like I said before, it's all about the communication. And I think that one, there is an idea that the secretary is not necessarily there to do much because our role is not necessarily defined. And I'm going to make it clear right now, I'm not just there to write the Instagram posts. Like that's that. I want to make sure that my role as secretary is being so greatly expanded and making sure that I can reach students to the greatest of my ability, and really just redefining that role once again as being there for the students and making sure that I am their biggest advocate.
Awesome. Thank you, Philip.
So I think, should I be elected to be the next student body secretary, I see great potential to expand the responsibilities and the way the role functions in itself, especially when it comes to creating a reciprocal line of communication between the Student Government Association and the student body. And one of my more specific initiatives in order to do this and in order to expand my responsibilities to keep myself and the rest of the executive accountable is to expand our video and communications team, to expand the accessibility of information on new mediums. And I also hope to build a relationship with the media and communications department, as we've shared on our platform, to create more frequent correspondence between the association, executive, treasury board, senate, and the student body. Myself and the entire Hands and Hearts team, we all know that communication between the association and the student body that we're serving is crucial in ensuring that students know that their elected leaders are ready to serve, but it also shows that we're willing to be accountable. So those are just some of the ways that I plan on expanding my position should I be elected. And thank you for the question.
Of course, thank you. Philip, how do you plan on increasing your student awareness, increasing student awareness of SGA in general if elected?
Thank you for the question again. So I've already spoken on the crucial nature of the line of communication that keeps SGA reachable and accountable. And I hope to increase student awareness and promote informational resources about the ongoings of the advocacy that student government does on a daily basis. Again, through an enhanced communications and video production team to provide more frequent correspondence. This would include further developing the subscription service that we started this year, or this current executive started this year, the branch, which students opt in for to receive updates from the different branches of the Student Government Association. Additionally, I want to further update the Student Government Association's website, especially after its renovation this year. There's always room for improvement. And again, it comes down to building out these new lines of communication on new mediums. I personally have witnessed a large shift of our student body shifting from Instagram to different social media platforms. And I want to use these new mediums to build more direct lines of communication with the student body. These are the most important ways that I, as secretary, think that I can increase awareness of the advocacy and functional efforts of the Student Government Association next year.
Thank you very much. And Grace, how have your specific roles at Catholic University prepared you for the role of secretary?
That is a great question. Thank you. So as I mentioned before, I did serve as the treasurer of the International Affairs Association, and that was a great experience because I was able to see from a perspective outside of SGA how students and how clubs and organizations really feel about student government. And then serving as a senator, I really have that opposing viewpoint as well because I see those inner operations on student government. So there's a great duality there that I have experienced as both an outsider and an insider of SGA. But I also think that I really had a great opportunity being the senator for the National Catholic School of Social Service because we are a smaller school than most. But we are also a group of very outspoken and very driven individuals. And so that really emphasizes the need for such great communication between me and constituents because it shows that they have so many things that they want to see reflected about their passions and what they're driven and like what really gets them in student government. And I was able to really see the need there for greater and really in-depth communication that I think will very much translate to my work if I'm elected as secretary, because I know the importance of being in touch with the student body and being accessible and representing them to the fullest extent.
All right, thank you. Before we close this out, I just wanted to ask if you have any other points that you'd like to make. We'll start with Philip first.
So just to wrap up some final thoughts, I'd like to speak a little bit about why I think I am the preferential candidate for the student body secretary position. And I think it falls mainly on my experience at Catholic University thus far. I've engaged myself with this campus community since day one. I've been able to form intentional, genuine connections through my involvement on campus. These experiences and connections will allow me to drive effective communication across campus between students who come from different backgrounds, who hold different ideologies, and those who may feel disconnected from our university, especially over the course of the last year. And I think it's clear that I'm qualified, prepared, and above all, ready to serve the student body as the next secretary of the Student Government Association, alongside the Hands and Hearts team.
Thank you very much, Philip. Grace, would you like to go ahead with any closing remarks?
Yes, I would also love to address why I think that I am perfectly fit to serve in the capacity of secretary for the student body. And firstly, drawing on my experience, I, as a senator and as someone in the International Affairs Association, as well as many other clubs on campus, I've been able to come into contact with so many different groups of people. And I really have seen instances on campus where people feel that they are not being represented. And in my work in Senate, through my ASL resolution, through my co-sponsoring of the Africana Studies major program, as well as so many others, I have been able to get in touch with people who kind of felt like they had lost hope in student government and in hopes of being represented and being spoken for. And that really ignited this passion in me to make sure that this work keeps going on and that we are getting in touch with the communities that feel the least represented. And that is something that you see all throughout the We See You campaign. And lastly, if you know me, then you know that when I am passionate about something, I go at it 110%. And aside from my schoolwork, I will eat, sleep, and breathe that passion. And so secretary is something that through this campaign, I found I'm already so driven and I'm so excited to do. And I just know that I will not rest until the work is done well and is done to the best extent. And so I feel that I'm very much ready to serve all of you alongside We See You in the capacity of secretary.
All All right. Thank you both so much for sharing a little bit more about your goals and your perspective. Best of luck to you both, and thank you for joining us tonight.